Hey guys, welcome to Modern Piano Styles with Adam. Today we're featuring an interview with Mark Eisenman. Is that how you say your last name?
Eisenman, yes.
Yeah, that's
Perfect, sir.
I guess. Cool. So yeah, we got to know each other on a Facebook group, which is called. Do you remember the name? It's
Is it Jam of the Week or Piano Performance, Jazz Piano Performance? I can't
yeah,
remember.
jazz piano performance. Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, I'm a week. There's one called Jam of the Week, which is I advise everybody to check out because every week there's a subject. So this week was ballads.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, a lot of very good musicians contribute to that. And sometimes I cross post. So I will take that, I'll do something, post it there, and then share it onto Jazz Performance
Mhm.
Facebook.
Yeah, there's quite a few groups out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but now we're here. So I'm curious about your piano history, about how you began playing piano and what you're doing now, because I liked your piano playing and your posts.
Well, thank you. Well, I started. I'm an older guy, been around for a while. I took some lessons with my father, who was a musician, and he got me started, but not too much classical piano playing. And then when that was in New York, and we moved to Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and then I went to York University in 1974, and that's when I kind of fell in love with jazz. And they had one of the first jazz programs in Canada. In fact, back then, there weren't any secondary, like, there were no jazz programs in schools at university level, hardly anywhere in the world, really. But the two guys who started this just built it up from nothing. And it was quite a great learning experience, the couple of the teachers there. And basically, it was a lot of playing in groups. So I fell in love with Miles Davis's piano players. I'd have to say that if I was going to advise somebody to uh, to start somewhere, for me it was him because you could go backwards in time and forwards in time from Miles's bands and learn pretty much everything you need to know about straight ahead jazz playing. So I loved Wynton Kelley, and just like your guest, what was his name again? He's a
And
great. Yes, he was naming all my favorite guys.
Mhm.
Wynton Kelley, Red Garland, and the thing is that I didn't have much of a piano technique, and I wasn't well schooled. I wasn't a very good reader, so I gravitated toward jazz because I thought it was easier. That was wrong, but I mean, it was easier because I didn't have to be told what to play and when to play. And once I learned some of the basics, you could have a lot of fun playing in groups. And so I studied, at first I was very intimidated by, say, Art Tatum. I mean, who isn't? Or Oscar Peterson, who is from here. Like was, and down the street from where I live was where Glenn Gould grew up,
Mhm.
like literally 2 blocks from here. Anyway, but Oscar Peterson. So I realized that emulating these guys, although they were inspiring, was not the best way into the music. So I started with what I thought was simpler people.
Mhm.
And that would be your Red Garlands and your Wynton Kellys. And Sonny Clark was mentioned by your guest the other day. And I gradually expanded. So very simple, what sounded simple, but it wasn't simple because nothing is that good as simple. Or it is simple, but it's not easy.
Mhm.
Simple is one thing, and easy is not the same as simple. But I understood that if I studied how they felt time, then I would be a convincing jazz player. So I really focused on their elements of touch, time, and how they comped in a
Mhm.
group.
Mhm.
And so that was my big inspiration.
So how have you been studying time on the piano?
Well, the teacher who started us off all those decades ago, he had us doing a lot of work with the metronome.
Mhm.
And I mean, the first exercise I ever learned was, you know,
Can you show with the overhead camera?
yeah, sure. I'm not even going to play right now.
Mhm.
But he would say, if you heard the metronome, you missed.
Mhm.
In other words, it was basically a Zen exercise. Can you make the metronome disappear and relax doing that and breathe? In fact, one of his books that he recommended to read, this is a great book. It was called Zen in the Art of Archery
Yeah,
by okay, great, eh? It's fantastic about not aiming at the target. It's all very useful for performance
Mhm.
problems, right? Anyway, so that was the first thing. And then I started like just trying to play. Now I could flip to the other camera. So one of the things I learned was that Red Garland's left hand was very important. So I'm going to flip to the camera here. I'm going to try and explain. This I think is very useful because, okay, let me back up a smidge. A lot of people, when they teach, it's easy to talk about, here's my voicing. Sorry, let me fix that. Here we go. It's the piano is so seductive because we're always learning, like, well, all the parallel, all these things and voicings and 2-5-1. So it's all very theoretical, and that's easy to talk about because it's easy to talk about. It's prescribed. Whereas rhythm is impossible to talk about because it happens in time. You can't talk about rhythm the same way you could. This is a sculpture here. It's just D minor 7/9. Oh, drop 2 voicing. Here's my, and if I voice lead, it goes like this. I mean, that is something that's seductive as a teacher to talk about because it's so, there it is. Learn that, you're good to go. But to learn this, and generate what feels like a whole band without even playing a bass note, that's harder to talk about. So what I learned was that Red Garland had, among many things, this left hand was very good at playing. What he did was a lot of playing the upbeat before beat 1 and 3.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. So I'd put the metronome. If I put it on all 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Or I could have put the thing on just there. So I made an exercise. I advise all your students to try this. There's my quarter note. Here is my thumb on beat 1 and 3. Legato, right? And the left hand is playing 1, 2. There's 2-5-1 in C. Now the hard part is to stop the right hand and keep this going. And to play anything here in the right. And the left hand should never get off the rails. Now that's something. Whoops, I got screwed up there. 2, 3. Just this. Check this out. And now I'll move it over a beat. Watch this. And now beat 3. Beat 4. If I do that, I swing. If I can master that, like rhythmically. Now, if I go back to this exercise, let me just speed it up so it feels a little different. Actually, I'll put it on the...
Just to clarify, you play on 1 and a 2 and da.
Yes, exactly. So I'm playing on this.
The last triplet. Yeah.
So notice I said it's the last triplet of beat 2 and 4. That's where the comp is. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But here's the thing: a lot of people, like I just said it the way you would write it. So 1, 2, right? But really, you should think of it as an upbeat before beat 1 and a before 3, because an upbeat in jazz substitutes for the following downbeat. So if you're comping like this, and you're going to play what they call a Charleston figure, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That upbeat before 3 is substituting for 3. It's not anything to do with beat 2. Like it's a mental, it's an important thing. That's a 1, 3. Nobody would ever comp like this. That would be really stupid, right? That doesn't swing. So once you play, that beat 3 is gone. So upbeat before 3 is a better way to look at an upbeat after 2 than it is said. So it's a subtle shift of perspective, but it's important. And this is why this is hard to teach, because it's different. It's not, you can't talk about it. Like teaching this is like trying to explain how to shoot a basketball through the hoop, or like how do you do it? Well, just grab the ball. You got to tell the students, stand there and throw the basketball, and when it goes in, do that again. And in this sense, just trying to get a flow here, you have to practice. Then you can go. And then you delay. So I'll just go through a little exercise here for this. This is really handy stuff. So watch this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a bebop scale. So the object of the game here is this should never change, and I should be able to play this 2-octave bebop scale, G7, over D, G, C, and move it every beat, every time a bar later. I'm sorry, a beat later. Okay,
can you explain what the bebop scale is?
So the bebop scale for a dominant 7th chord, the normal scale is G7. Bebop, there are many of them, but the simplest one, the best one to start with and learn is the semitone between the tonic and the 7th. And there's, most importantly, and people again never talk about this, this scale means nothing without rhythm, because it's oriented to have the upbeats as the wrong notes. So here's your G7th chord. So that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. It swings by its own nature. All the downbeats are chord tones. And all the upbeats are these. So they actually get an accent without even trying, because they sound tense against this chord. Like that's consonant, and this is not. So when you put these notes on an upbeat, they will carry the time forward. So that's why the scale swings just by itself. I'll use a metronome so you can. Keeps me honest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like you hear G7 without. Now if I play it backwards, it sounds so dumb.
Because what you do is you're accentuating the chord tones on the main beats.
Yes, and I'm not even.
I added the F sharp, so
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
On the G7 instead of A minor 7.
That's right. So you're really saying it's a construction, the scale. Barry Harris, this is Barry Harris stuff. You guys all should check out Barry Harris online. But his basic idea is a G7 bebop scale has a semitone between the tonic and the seventh, or all of these. 3 semitones, or if you start on a ninth, you use 2 semitones, or you use no semitones, or until you get to the G, and then you. So the idea is you're orienting all the upbeats to be non-chord tones. So that's why it doesn't make any sense to conceive of a bebop scale without rhythm. Is pointless. You cannot separate them. You never want to practice this. You see how that sounds so wrong? I started on upbeat. 1, 2, 3. It sounds so wrong. But this sounds right. If I started on an upbeat on a non-chord tone, it'll always work. So I'm using the bebop scale, 2 octaves, G7, to practice my left hand. What I'm trying to do is play Red Garland's comping figure perfectly, no matter what happens in the right hand. So I'm trying to I'm using my right hand to disorient my left hand and seeing if I can maintain my composure. So here I go. I'm going to just do it so you guys have it on recorded. 1. Whoops, let me slow it down. I'm counting the metronome now as double time, and I'm putting the click on the backbeat on the hi-hat. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 3. Now watch this. I'll start like this. This is how I find my way in. So I always start with simple, and then I'm going to try the bebop scale. 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to try it on 2. Boy, that's hard. 1, 2. I was rushing. 1, 2, 3. And a whole barley. 2, 3, 4. See what I'm doing now? I'm trying to play different rhythms in the right hand and not let the left hand be. The reason this is so useful is that it helps you when you're like, so much of what the problem with young players is they try to generate all their time in the right hand. And when they go off the rails because technically something happens, they lose the time. Whereas if your left hand is like firm and really confident, what I think Red Garland does is he edits his mistakes out before he makes them. So that he feels the piano, and this is he can count on the left hand as being perfect. If you go to his trio record, well, you'll hear him. He does this every time he plays, but you know, If I Were a Bell with Miles Davis or any of his trio records, like you know, he just, you can't listen to him for 4 bars and not hear this. It doesn't mean that's the only comping figure, because you can also practice the Charlestons like this. So that would be like this. So here's my 2-5-1 exercise, comping only. I'm going to do it with a walking bass line. So this is Charleston, and then that's my 4-bar phrase. It's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. By the way, if you really want to get these together, the best way is to not use the piano. Like, just clap them with the metronome, and it feels good. If the metronome's swinging, you're okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Bop, bop, Now I'm gonna go. Now I'm going to do it in the left hand. So you're getting it all together. The bebop scale, 2 keys. I was in B flat, the second. And nothing is like by accident. And you practice that way to get strong time. A lot of metronome work, very important, or iReal Pro or something.
Okay, so this Charleston rhythm is like 1,
Dotted.
and 3, and 4, and
Yeah,
1,
1, 2,
and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and.
Yeah, if you write it down, it's a dotted quarter eighth note.
Yeah,
And
then
you need to.
one is 1, and 2, and 3.
Yes. Yes. So you know what? I have a document I could send you. It's really simple. I could do it in the chat if you want. It's just the figures. Do you want to take a minute? I can send it.
Yeah, I can send it afterwards, and I can.
Oh, afterwards. Okay. Yeah. So basically, there are two figures, 2 Charlestons, one on the downbeats and one on the upbeats. Mm-hmm. On every beat. Like, so you could go 1, 2, and they make phrases if you use them. It's big band writing. You know, if you listen to the Count Basie rhythm section, you can hear all of that stuff. And that's a great way to learn them too, because they're so swinging and it's so nice. Mm-hmm. But all the great piano players, Wynton, Kelley, all these guys, they all use these figures. Bill Evans. Mm-hmm. And they're great. So like if you were to practice, for example, a downbeat Charleston on 1, followed by the next bar or downbeat on 2, and make a loop of that, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Or reversed, it would be on 2, then 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops, I screwed up. Oh, that was right. Or a downbeat on 1 and the next bar an upbeat after 1. Or start with an upbeat after 1 and then do downbeat of 1. I lost my concentration there for a minute. But it's endless. All the hip figures, like all of the comping that we know, pretty much can be described with mixing those figures together in creative ways. So obviously, it's a no-brainer. If you can't play one of them perfectly in swing, you can't play anything. Mm-hmm. So you really have to focus on until you think you sound like a jazz musician just clapping. Mm-hmm. And then if you can't do that, it won't transfer to the piano. Mm-hmm. Because you'll play on the piano. If you have perfect technique, you'll play exactly what you're hearing in your, and if you're hearing crap in your mind, that's what's going to come out in the piano. So rhythm is like so great to focus on without the instrument, and then say, okay, now I need to get past the piano because it's a pain. It's hard. Anyway, anything else?
Good. Yeah. So what we could sum up today, we've discussed timing and what's important in jazz is to work with a timing device. It could be a backing track or it could be the metronome. And we discussed Red Garland, and he plays on the upbeat to 3 and 1. So it's 1 and 3 and 4 and 1. You can also think triplets: 1 and 2.
Oh yes,
3 and 4 and 1 and 2.
that's right. And that at and that's a very important point. All of this stuff, I didn't even say it. You have to start off with thinking. So a great exercise with the metronome is to do this. Check this. Put it on as fast as you can, and say 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, or even better. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and go. That's a Charleston.
And then you count it, so go like 1 and 2 and
That's right.
So 1 and 2 and
That's right. 1 then 2 and And that's really cool because the metronome, if you can orient your mind, I'm putting it so it clicks every third beat. And I'm hearing that as the upbeat. You could also say it's a 1, and that would work too, but there's something really groovy about hearing the metronome with the high-pitched noise on the upbeat. So I'll do it the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. But if I turn it off and reorient my mind, this is hard. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Doesn't matter. It's the same exercise, but that's a little harder. But so the metronome is a great tool because it's a truth machine, I think. You know, it's like if you can play, sorry. There's another rule about comping. And the rule is, and it could be broken, but long comps end with short comps. Here's a long comp. You don't want to go. There. If I start getting it, the metronome starts sounding really good. So what I'm listening for as a performer is the feeling that the metronome is inevitably perfect. So I'm using it as a feedback device, like to tell me when I hear the metronome click and it sounds like exactly where I thought it should be, that's telling me that I'm where I should be. That's the exercise. So I'm really a lot of listening. So this is a great exercise for learning how to listen outside yourself too, which is what's the point of playing jazz? You're usually playing with other people, and you get so wrapped up in your own thing. Sometimes you stop listening to people outside you. So the metronome is not just a machine to help you play metronomically, it's a listening exercise.
Mhm.
So anyway, I could stop
Mhm.
with that.
Yeah, good. So yeah, thanks for joining in then. And would
Yeah.
recommend the listeners to uh, join Mark. Have you got a homepage?
Yes, you can find me at jazzpiano.ca, www.jazzpiano, one word.ca. And I have some other things there, some little learning materials.
Mhm.
And also, I've got a new recording out, which is you can find there as well. So it's
Yeah.
called Jazz Classics,
Hmm.
and it's on Spotify and iTunes and all that.
Cool.
Yeah, and thank you.
Yeah. And also, you can follow us on YouTube on Modern Piano Styles with Adam, and the same name for our Facebook group if you want more information on jazz piano comping or piano in general. Okay, so we'll end off with the signature for this time. Oh, here we go.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, take care, Adam. Bye bye.
Bye bye.